Welcome back to the sane, calm side of the table, folks. Yeah, look, a lot of what Brad has said is a ditto on this side of the table. DxO has this optics module, which is the same type of thing. DxO, when you load in a new camera lens combination, DxO will detect that and it will download a profile specific for that camera and lens. So that's a very good feature. So I've been playing around here. I really like 2:1 ratio in photos. Bit of just a personal preference of mine. I print a lot. I prefer to print to digital image display.
Can I just stop you for one minute?
Yeah, righto.
You can see Grant's photo that's up there at the moment. But I just find it very interesting how we like very similar things. And I haven't been looking at Grant's, and Grant hasn't been looking at mine. And if you have a look at that and this one, so the tonings are slightly different, but we both cropped our photo to virtually the same. I've left a little bit of sand down the bottom because I was unsure. Grant's taken the sand out, which I was also unsure. But we've virtually cropped to the same aspect, which landscapes always seem to look better, in my opinion, to have that bit of that panorama feel. Not always, but most landscapes seem to genuinely look better as that type of format. Yeah, looking at things, we're very similar with what we're doing.
Look, I was just going to show you the cropping tool for DxO, which is here. I too messed around with the sand. Do I leave it in? Do I take it out? And I'm not that keen on the rock here on the right hand side, so that's why I've snuck back in. I could take off the constrain tool and do it without that. Yeah, no, I think I'll just stay there. The warmer tones again, that was sort of the feel of the morning. If you go back to side-by-side preview, before and after, it's a lot warmer now, the photo. It was fairly cold, underexposed, but that's on purpose. I've said this numerous times before. That's my style of shooting. I always like to underexpose on purpose to preserve the detail. So that's what I've done, but there's another thing, and I'm going to outsmart myself a bit here, in that doing this dueling software, I now flick over to Nick. This is giving away my secrets, Brad.
No, well, that's the way it goes, isn't it?
I think it's a pretty common secret. I actually heard one of our top judges speaking to this at a competition not long ago, and he said, "Well, and that would, if you ran that through Nick, it would look a lot better again." And I thought, "Shh, don't tell him." But Nick is now Nick used to be free software, and then it was developed, I believe, by Microsoft. No, it was bought by Microsoft, and then since been purchased by DxO, and I love it. I've been using it for years, and I can't recommend it enough, really. It's good fun stuff to use. It's got a terrific black and white processor in it. So here we are, we're in Nick. So I'm going to turn that off for the moment. So that's our that's our process photo from a DxO that we brought across. Left hand side, we have all these different filters that we can apply. They begin as a filter, but you can independently adjust them. I'll leave it on all so you can see them all. I really do like this detail extractor, and you can go crazy in here or not. I generally just play here in the default area, it just pops out. You notice in the rocks there, if I turn that off, right, you take notice of the middle rock here. Now I'm going to click it back on, and it's just picked up a little bit of detail in that rock. The rocks on the left have popped off the picture. I really like that. Over here on the right hand side, you can now make further adjustments if you want to, as to the amount of the detail that you're chasing. You can even place a control point if you want to play even further. I'm just going to leave that like it is for the sake of moving on, but there's more, folks. There's more. We can now add another filter. So we come back here, we've clicked add filter, go back to the choice of menus. This is an interesting feature that you can add in. And to give your photo maximum depth, this could still use something else, in my opinion, and I've been wrong before. So now it's sort of a vignette of sorts, but it's not. It's actually working on the middle of the photo. On the right hand side here, you notice there's the different shapes of it. So I prefer this one, number 2, which is the elongated shape. And you can play with the amount of it that goes on. So I'm going to pull that back a bit. The border luminosity, you can see what it does or doesn't do. I'm going to leave that about just a touch. Center size, you can pull that right back to where it's virtually nothing, or you can expand it out. And you can even place the center. So I'm going to do something here. I'm going to place the center on the surfer. This may not work, but we'll see how we go. So now I'm going to pull the center back a little bit, like that. It's made my rocks a bit darker. Look, I'll leave it like that for the moment. I'll probably come back and have another go at that. But folks, there's more. We can add another one. We come back to the library and we come down and we have a bit of a look around here. And here's another one that I have visited before, Pro Contrast. This can work or not work. Every image is different, and you will get different results on different images with different tools. So treat this as a toolkit, a tool bag. Not every screwdriver does the job. Sometimes you need a different point. Not every hammer does the job. So we'll have a look at the default normal setting. Dynamic is actually fairly useful. Strong contrast, you're really popping things out. Ooh, that's got a bit of potential about it, because that's now brought back into play my features on the left, and it's still left my surfer a little more highlighted than he was before. But folks, you got it, there's more. We can add another filter. We can go all day. And there's one that I recommend you have a play with, and there's lots of them here. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do here. Solarization can be a fun thing to have a look at sometimes. So let's just go in and let's just go to color 1, for example, here, and boom, boom. Not everyone's cup of tea, but if you're looking for something a bit different, fun thing. I did some of this for my grandkids recently. They were go-karting, and I did up some t-shirts for them and used some of this on one of the photos, and of course the kids thought it was really cool. So you put it in there over here on the right hand side. You can see what you've done. You don't like that one, hit the cross and it is gone. So back on the left hand side, there's one that can work or not, but have a look at it, have a play with it. Like everything, playing. Come over here to film effects, and this modern branded one can be quite interesting. This is the simulation of film as seen by the writers in Nix. You've got your Fuji films, your Kodaks, etc., etc. As I'm saying, not all these filters work on all images. You have to have a play, and every now and again one is just going to absolutely smack you on the head and go, that is fantastic. So I have used this one before, the Kodachrome 64. So you think that's okay, you got a bit of choice there. Come over here to the right hand side. See this drop down button where the Kodachrome 64 is lit up? hit that, boom, boom, look at that. We are not restricted to just Kodachrome 64. We can come through and we can have a look at all sorts of, and as you hover over them, it will adjust itself, it will reflect the image that's going on. One for now. So that's, messing around with it. Not always everyone's cup of tea, can be different. Again, you've got some adjustments here, brightness and contrast. You can play around with different aspects on this. So it's not, in essence, a pure filter, Brad. It gives you a template to work with, if you like, and then you can do the fine adjustments yourself, depending on your taste. So I am going to step out of that at that stage. Yep, that's all I'll do for that one for now, Brad.
Okay.
There you go.
Back over to mine. Just having a look here, and I'm just zooming in, and there's, like, we all get these, a few spots on the lens, or sensor spots, but they look like just spots on the lens. So what we can do here in Lightroom is there's a couple of tools that you can do. You can grab your spot removal tool here, and you can just go in straight away and just make adjustments to those spots. So here I'm using Heal instead of Clone, and that works really well for any dust spots or anything like that. Sometimes you'll have to move this second ring if it picks the wrong area. So if it does that, it's like the cloud, there's a bit of a line here, so you can move it to, say, that side, and that way it keeps your line continuous. There's another tool down the bottom here that's Visualize Spots. If you turn that on, it will go to a grayscale, and you can actually move this slider, and you'll see here that as I move that slider, you can see that there's your second spot. And if we turn that back off, you can see that there's a second spot right here. So that can be a useful tool to try and find the spots. If you're finding it hard to see where they are, you can just turn this Visualize Spots on, and you can move the slider, and you can see, yep, there's one right here. So you can put your tool on there, and it will get rid of that spot. So if you hold the space bar, if you zoomed in and you hold the space bar down, you can move around your photograph using your left mouse button. So what I normally do is I just check the sky and make sure that there's no visible spots or any distractions that you might want to move off. So over here, there's a bird over there.
Leave the bird
So you can leave the bird in there, or you can just go like this and go, nah, no bird. And and there's a couple of spots up here. So if we turn on our tool and see, they're very hard to see it in the normal color mode. I only just saw it on my screen, but if I turn on my Visualize Spots, it's very obvious that there is a spot here, and there's a spot here. So and if you scan along, see, I didn't even see that there's a little one here. But it helps you find those spots. There's the odd little faded one there. The ones that aren't very noticeable, I don't worry about. Otherwise, you'll be there all day trying to find them. There's a few dots here, but they could be to do with the clouds, and they're little specks of clouds. So there's a bright one right there. What's that? Is that a bird? I don't know. I just got rid of it. So so just go over your work and make sure there's nothing worse, especially if you get to the print stage, and we'll zoom back out to full screen now. There's nothing worse than you get to print stage and you print out, your perfect masterpiece of a photograph, and especially if you send it off and you pay for it to get printed and get it framed. Yep. And somebody comes along and says, oh. And I've been that somebody but I haven't done it in front of the author though, but I've walked up to a photo and go, oh, why didn't they see but I look for things like that, because I'm aware of it, because I have them on my own photos. And there's nothing worse than you've got it framed and it's in glass and it's got bloody 2 spots there. Is terrible.
Absolutely. Things, folks, that...
What's Mum bringing in? What you got for us? Muffins! We're going to have to hold this recording right there because we got the muffin lady.
Just before we do that, Brad.
I'm gone. I'm switching the camera over.
You switched us off. Okay. Well, there you go. Oh, dear.
Thank you. It's still recording. A few muffins later. So I'm now good. I've eaten my muffin. I won't say how many apple muffins I just ate, but I'm now satisfied, Grant. So
they were good, weren't they?
They were good.
They were good. They were good.
So that was a shout out to my mum on that one.
For the muffin lady.
Yep.
Brilliant work.
So shout out to my mum for those muffins. That was unexpected, but well appreciated. Would you think, Grant?
Oh, definitely. You notice. I hope you noticed the priority levels that kicked in there, folks. The moment,
I left the chair. I left this recording.
Gone.
So I'm gonna have
gone.
I'm gonna have to cut. I'm gonna have to do a bit of editing and cut that bit out. But this chair, I was gone. This chair was empty. So Grant was wondering what's going on. I was out the door.
Priority. I'm saying, where's he? Anyway, back to the task at hand. So, look, I'm happy enough with that. If I was going to submit this for anything, I would go back and play a bit more with it, but I wanted to give you an example of what DxO can do. So that's what we started with up the top, and that's what we've got down the bottom. Brad was talking about printing just before. Brad and I both print large format. So yes, dust spots are very important, and your fringing and all those little issues, all those little issues are big issues when you print, because it's great to print big, looking behind us at various things on the wall, but when you do that, the little issues become big issues. So you enlarge those as well. So you enlarge the fringing, you enlarge the spot, you enlarge the error, and it can really break your heart when you spend the money to get a print done and you get it, you go, oh my God, look at that. It looks bloody awful because of that little bit of attention to detail at this last stage. So there you go, folks. That's my effort, using DxO.
Yes, so that's where Grant has taken his. Mine is probably not taken as far. So if we go over to mine, and here's mine. So if we go to full screen, there we go. So with this one, very similar to what Grant has done. The recording's slightly different. It's a little bit darker on the recording, but that's fine. So I've basically just done what I normally do with photos, which is the quick edit that don't spend much more than 3 minutes on. And I've basically just adjusted the very basics in the basic panel. And I have used adjustment brush on the middle rock and a little bit on the side rock just to bring a little bit of detail. And I believe you did the same there, Grant, on yours.
Yep.
I have brought the histogram out from being a little bit flat. Most raw photos will be a flatter type histogram because it's waiting for you to do the processing. I've cleaned the photo up. I've cropped it very similar to Grant. I've just got a little bit of sand in the foreground. I still don't know what I'd do and, whether I'd crop a bit more off. A lot of judges say, oh, you don't need the bit on the bottom, which is probably true. You probably don't need the bit on the bottom. But I just feel a little bit grounded with a bit of dirt there. So read into it whatever you'd like. But so I've basically done the adjustments on the highlights and the shadows, a little bit of adjustment brush work. and that's pretty much it. I haven't done any heavy processing because it's a heavy image. I've decided to let the image speak for itself a little bit with the colours and tones, because that's what you see in the morning. So that's the way I've sort of left it.
So,
my apologies there. Grant asked me a question. I'm still playing around with a lot of the audio where we've got multiple mics in the room, and I'm still playing around with settings and whatnot. He just asked me a question: if we've proved one software is better than the other, and here's my answer. Not really. I think it comes down to that there's a lot in education of the person using the software. It doesn't really worry. I have used other software, and I'm just using what's comfortable to me and what I can get the job done quicker. And that's only because I've learned how to use one type of software. I find with most software, even though it's like Grant saying, you can do this and that with the presets, which would speed up. You'll find most software can do a lot of those things. It's the knowledge to know how to do it within that software.
exactly.
And vice versa, same with Lightroom. A lot of features I was doing on Lightroom, Grant had those features. It might have been called something slightly different, but most of them were called very similar to Lightroom. So I say get comfortable with whatever software you're using. Whatever works for you. The reason I stick with Lightroom a little bit is I use it for all my cataloguing as well, and I've learnt to use the software because it keeps me organised, and I'm not the most organised person out there. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
No comment.
So
no comment.
it helps me keep organised. It has the develop module that works well. If I'm doing anything complicated, well, then I actually use other software like Photoshop or whatever I can get my hands on. I've also got a couple of the other ones that Grant's using as well. So I'll use them if I've got a specific purpose for it. Most of my photos, I just try to get them processed. I take a lot of photos each year. I take a lot of photos on the trips. My main thing is to do the 3-minute process and try and get as many done as I can and get them star rated. And I give them 5 stars. It's all that organisation with me. I know the software. It keeps me organised, so I 5-star them after that. And then if I need to print them or whatever, I then, for one, put it on a very good monitor, and I nitpick it, and I get a second opinion. So whether it be my mother or my father or whoever's around, I bring them in to have a look and say, what do you think of this photo? And they say, I don't like the photo.
That's
I
always
like
heartbreaking,
it. And they
isn't
say,
it?
we'll print it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to print it now. But getting that second opinion, I think, is probably whether it be your partner or whoever it is. I think it's very important to get a second opinion and see what they think. And they might say, I like it, but if you did this or this, or it doesn't hit with them or whatever, it's good to have that opinion. So what do you think, Grant?
I can't argue with any of that. I could try, but I won't. And yes, we've proved here, I think, is that both of these software programs are very capable of doing very good adjustments on your image. You've got to start with, there's a lot of basics in the image that have to be right when you take it with the camera. We've said this a couple of times now. Get it right. Get the basics right in the camera. Get the focus. Get the exposure a little bit under so you protect the detail. Get the sharpness right. Get those basics right, and then you can knock yourself out in a whole range of software. We've had a look at Raw Therapy. We've had a look at Lightroom, DxO. We will have a look going forward at Faststone and On1. Then we'll prowl into Topaz. We've got some Topaz software that's been made available to us. And you haven't used that, have you, Brad? Topaz? No. You are going to love Topaz's denoising and sharpening tools and gigapixel tools. more their utility tools more so than their creative tools. I'm not that fussed about those, but their utility tools are, I think, the best. So we'll look at those in the future. It's been great. There you go. There's a couple of images, different ways of doing it, different authors. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, great to have you along, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
See you later.